Welcome to the third episode of Richmond's $1 Million Startup Podcast, presented by BenX Consulting Group. We have Meg Pryde with Brandefy on the show today, and you guys are in for a treat. Brandefy helps demystify the beauty industry by creating clarity and transparency into beauty products for consumers. So tune in and enjoy the podcast. Today, we have Meg Pryde joining us with Brandefy. Meg, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Christian, and congrats on your big news.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't be more fired up, so I appreciate that. So today, Meg, what I want to do is I want to walk through kind of your story personally before we get to Brandefy. Walk through your story, where you grew up, your life, and then we'll kind of get into more of like Brandefy and business questions and entrepreneur questions and all that fun stuff. So why don't you tell everyone listening a little bit more about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up on a farm in rural Virginia, middle of nowhere, a little tiny town called Berryville.
Where is that?
It is west of DC.
Oh, okay.
But not Northern Virginia. And that really just like grew my love of the outdoors, and that's still a big part of my life. And then I went to University of Virginia. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a lot of who's here in Richmond, and then worked in consumer packaged goods and at a tech startup here in Richmond that's actually really relevant to what you're working on. Mm-hmm. And launched Brandefy while in business school. I went back to Darden, which is UVA. So kind of double dipped on the
Sure.
Wahoo front.
Sure. So what made you start Brandefy, or what was kind of like that big idea when you're in business school and you worked at a tech startup? Let's back up a little bit. So did you know you always want to work in the startup entrepreneur realm?
So I come from a long line of feisty entrepreneurial women. Like my great grandmother started a dress shop, which way back then was pretty rare.
Yeah.
But I realized that I wanted to do something more disruptive and scalable, to see if I can kind of take those talents and make it something that's more nationwide versus Main Street storefront. And that really inspired me. And then I came across this problem when I was in consumer packaged goods. I was like, okay, maybe there's something here, and started testing it. And early stage testing is like my favorite part of.
How come?
It's just so exciting because you have no idea
how it's
going to work out. Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate.
Yeah. Why don't you does everyone know what you're up to now?
No, not many people do. So I founded last week BenX Consulting Group, with a primary focus on benefits consulting, and not just stopping at the employer, but going to the employee. So we're going to do traditional consulting for the employer, like plan designs and technology and all that fun stuff. But we're also creating guides on how to negotiate lower medical bills and creating checklists for technologies for the employee to help them become better or more proficient, in health insurance and make them have better healthcare decisions.
That's awesome, because I feel like it's so hard to even read the different types of plans and how to,
especially
really
you don't know
wild.
what anything means.
Yeah.
It's like Chinese almost.
And they use all these acronyms, and I'm like, what the hell does this stand for? Can we please make it a little more human? So it sounds like that's what you're working on.
Trying to, because there's crazy statistics like 80% of medical bills are wrong. And then 77% of people don't know what co-insurance is. And it's it's a real problem. Yeah. But people are like, we'll take care of it. And then all of a sudden you realize this is people's health and this is people's money.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure we're probably doing this the right way.
So super random side note, I was in an induced coma when I was 18 years old, huge medical issue. And I just remember seeing a medical bill where my helicopter ride was I don't know, 90 grand.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, and then they wake it down to 10 grand. Or something.
Insurance discounts are negotiated.
It's wild.
It is.
So it's such a foreign world to me. And
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, glad you're here today.
Yeah, me too. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really happy.
So kind of quick side note, with you being raised in rural Virginia, I was raised in South Hill, Virginia, which is a very rural town.
Maybe even more rural.
Yeah. So when I came to Richmond 4.5 years ago, Meg, I was like, this is Vegas. I was like, this is Las Vegas. So I went to a Ferrum College, a small college.
Okay.
And I was like, this is Las Vegas. This is huge. Like, did you have a similar experience or were you?
I feel like I was lucky enough to like go to other cities before moving to Richmond.
I mean,
when did you move to
It
Chick-fil-A?
was huge. You have no idea how big that was for me.
Great. Oh my gosh. But I did like it was a 2-stoplight town, like Tasty Freeze. That's kind of what you get.
Yeah.
And that is just hysterical. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it was we used to go to Cologne Heights just to get Chick-fil-A. That was like our, and it was like almost an hour away. And that was just like our getaway.
And now, like, I'm like, if something is 10 minutes away, I'm like, gosh, that's too long.
I know.
Oh,
now I'm so
far?
spoiled. I live off Monument right here, and I'm like, 5 minutes.
Like, I have to drive a mile to the grocery store. I do miss like the beautiful views.
Me too.
That's probably the hardest part.
Yeah, and the most random thing I miss is like when you have like a fire or something, and you can see all the stars because there's no lights.
Yes.
And then obviously with Richmond or any other big city, you're just like there's tons of lights everywhere, so it's tough to see the stars.
Yeah. So are we still thinking Richmond's a big city, or are
huge.
we like
Metropolitan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Vegas, like going out every weekend.
The biggest city in the world, I think.
Yeah.
I did actually go to Vegas a couple years ago before COVID, and I was like, "Oh, this is Vegas." But I still think Richmond's Vegas.
Yeah. I feel like Vegas is not my vibe, but well, that's hysterical.
Yeah. So you went to this tech startup and obviously learned some of the ropes, I guess, of the startup world.
Yes.
And then we talked off air. You got introduced, I guess, to Startup Virginia when you were launching. Was this before Brandefy or when you were launching Brandefy?
It was actually post-launching Brandefy Business School.
Gotcha.
And it was so meaningful to get introduced both to Lighthouse Labs and Startup Virginia. So Lighthouse Labs is an accelerator program where they invest $20K and they're really like focused on the lives of founders. And then Startup Virginia is kind of a program that you like graduate into that provides, support from a like capital raising perspective, community perspective, literally anything you could ever think about.
Gotcha.
Needing.
So it sounds like that really kind of accelerated, for lack of
yeah,
no pun intended.
Yeah.
But so you were at Darden at business school after this tech startup, and you get this great idea while working, and you're like, hey, the beauty industry needs a revamp or whatever, I guess in your words.
Yes.
So talk to me through that process of you officially starting Brandefy in like the first few months.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because that's where you are right now.
So please, I need all the advice.
Complete chaos.
Yes.
Okay. So I was in business school, and it sounds like you obviously are coming to your business with a ton of experience in this space.
Yes.
And I was actually in a similar spot when I originally launched Brandefy because we were focused on the larger consumer packaged goods world. And what had happened, after college, I worked at a massive private label manufacturer, and we would push out everything like generic Advil, generic everything. And I worked on the infant formula side of the business. And I was always surprised that it would be like the exact same stuff in two different containers, and we would sell one for, $70 and one for 20. And as a consumer, I was just really appalled by that. And that was really the initial inspiration.
Wow.
And I realized that you could use community and technology to help consumers know when it's actually worth it to pay up for something, or when they can get, pretty much the same thing for half the price.
Wow. And that just disparity is crazy. I mean, just 70 to 20 or whatever the exact price was. Like, what were they saying were the reasons that this one was 70 and this one was 20?
It's literally the marketing and the label.
Brand.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I can relate to like sunglasses or like some of the other things where it's like $25 sunglasses typically are just as nice as the $300 ones, but they're not Ray-Bans.
They're coming out of the same factory. Like sunglasses is actually a great example.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time there was like one sunglass factory. Same thing with eyeliner. Like it's all coming out of one factory in Germany. It's like you can only differentiate so much. And it makes so much more sense. Like even massive beauty companies like Estee Lauder are using contract manufacturing. So, you'll see their products coming off the line when you're walking through the plant. Yeah.
Wow. I feel like it's something that I didn't know about, but I would imagine most people have no idea about that.
They don't. And it's so interesting to see like our customer base is extremely educated.
That's awesome. That's what I want to create too. Same thing.
There you go. Yeah.
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 So talk to me about like the way you started Brandefy, because I want to learn myself and obviously the viewers and everyone just a little bit more about exactly what you do. So you're in the makeup skincare industry. So how are you guys differentiating? I've checked out your website and app, and I'm curious how you view it.
Yeah. So the app is really unique to us. We compare products to help people understand like when it's worth it to spend $169 versus $59. And we do that through ingredient comparison, through people's real opinions of trying those products side by side. We consult dermatologists or physician assistants and help people understand and navigate that landscape. I don't know if you guys appreciate how big the beauty industry is, but like 50 billion in the US annually. Like it's massive.
Wow.
I'm guessing benefits is actually bigger.
Yeah. Oh, it's way bigger. But that's still a lot.
But it's like rare to find like a packaged good
absolutely.
thing that is quite as big. Like even when you think of infant formula in the States, it's like 4 billion, just to put it in perspective. Yeah.
Okay.
And so you kind of can understand like people are spending a lot of money every month on taking care of themselves and investing in themselves. Yeah. But we help them find ways to do it to get that same like luxury experience more affordably.
So I'm fascinated by the feedback aspect that you're talking about. So walk me through how customers give feedback. So is it through the app? Is it like a review, or are they actually testing the products and feeling it, or?
They're actually testing the products, comparing, and then submitting it through the app. And they do that I think we've created this community where everybody wants to help each other, and we're all kind of helping each other, outsmart the marketers and figure it out.
What's best for you? What's best? Because does it, I mean, this is probably a stupid question, but does it vary, I guess, between person, what is best?
Completely.
Okay.
But you start to see these like what they call hero SKUs emerge. So like hero products that consumers converge around and love. There's a famous product called SkinCeuticals CE Ferulic that literally is $169 for 1 ounce. Consumers love it. And we made a more affordable alternative to it. So essentially we are looking at the data in our mobile app, seeing what customers love and whether or not there's a good affordable alternative. And it's our best seller by far. Yeah.
Wow. That's all. And which one is that?
It's that one right here.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you to try it.
Yeah.
If you have,
I'm excited. Actually, I've never done any of this, but I will. I promise, I will do it.
Well, it's funny because definitely start with this one. It's amazing and it's beginner friendly.
Gotcha.
If you haven't tried the $200 version of that, it kind of smells like stinky hot dog water. And and ours does too, because obviously it's efficacious.
Same ingredients.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay.
So like you might not appreciate it if you have not fully appreciated that very high end.
Got
product.
you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just roll around with this.
Expectations are everything. I appreciate that.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
But it's a wild
So
thing.
you guys find obviously you can see the ingredients that other manufacturers or suppliers are using. So with these, you guys actually like manufacture these.
Yes. Well, we work with the right contract manufacturers to get it done. So like the people making the moisturizer are really good at making moisturizer. They're making all the best moisturizers. It's a company out of Pennsylvania that we work with there. This company is really good at making serums. Same with this one as well. And the chemist who formulated this product worked at Estee Lauder for 20 years. She's unbelievable. Yeah.
Wow.
And she just packed every good ingredient into this product. It was really exciting.
So what you guys are really doing is just like stripping it down from the ingredients and from, like if you take everything out of it, like the brand image and the awareness and like what's best for your skin and what like consumers love, you're creating a community around that and then trying to figure out what's best for everyone.
Exactly. And it's interesting because when brands like SkinCeuticals spend, $100 million marketing their products, it creates this demand. But a lot of consumers, it's not realistic and you don't feel good about spending $200 on literally something that is that big.
There's no way you can.
Yeah. That you're consuming like on a regular basis. And it doesn't work if you're not using it on a regular basis. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So you found it in 2018. So this was, I guess, coming up in 5 years.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
just past 4. When did you find or found the company?
So I went full time June of 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
June what? My birthday's June 6th.
Oh, I think that's probably pretty damn close.
We'll have to look up the corporation documents.
Yes. I actually closed our first funding round the day I got married, which I do not recommend. Like it was very stressful. I had huge like bags under my eyes.
Like the morning
pictures.
of?
Like literally at the rehearsal dinner, I was like signing investment paperwork.
Gosh. Meg, oh my gosh.
And I don't know why I did that. Like I probably should have just like, but I think it was like this sign of like, okay, we're gonna be okay. Like we have investment,
more confidence.
Like, exactly.
Gotcha.
Like I wanted to go into
that's stressful though. Still,
my new life with our capital round closed.
That's still so stressful.
It wasn't. I don't recommend that. So if you're planning on getting married anytime soon, close your capital rounds before. Yeah.
Or maybe, try to raise
or
some
after.
money. Yeah. Get some type of revenue. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So obviously for 4.5 years, you've had this company and grown it to this point so far, which is, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
In that.
I appreciate it.
So let's flip the script a little bit. I want to hear, and a lot of people, obviously on this podcast want to hear like young entrepreneur starting a company, like what are some of the biggest challenges in starting a company?
Oh my goodness. They are endless and you are in the thick of it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think like knowing what's important was hardest early on.
Yeah.
And I know
I was going to ask you that. I was going to say, like, how do you differentiate what's important?
How do you prioritize?
Because if there's 100 things coming at you, like how can you differentiate? These are the 8 things I need to get done today.
And I feel like it's interesting because a lot of my, employees with a couple years of experience have the same struggle, because how do you really pick and choose like what will move the needle today? And that's really the question that I ask myself kind of every week and every day. Like, what am I doing to move my most important priority forward?
Gotcha.
And then you just kind of have to let go of everything else.
That's so tough.
You have to be not a perfectionist.
Right.
And so like if you're a perfectionist, like it's gonna really the first couple months are gonna hurt.
Well, I tell you what, just putting this website up like we were talking earlier, like I want to do so much within it and make sure everything's perfect, but then at the same time I want to be like, hey, I gotta get this out. Like it's more important for me to get this out than to have all my verbiage perfect.
So I'm so happy that you have already realized that.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the whole point of early stage testing. And you see so many young entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I need to get this prototype right. I need to spend 20 grand doing X, Y, Z. And I'm like, no, you can fake it with a text message application. Like you can like find ways to figure out what your customer actually wants, because 100% of the time, it is not
what you think.
It's not what you think.
Even in like your most perfect, because I'm thinking for me, like my most perfect process and most perfect way of doing things is still probably not exactly what they want.
And so getting it out is going to help you like use your time and resources so much more efficiently than if you like made it perfect.
Yeah. So I know that's a big challenge for me. It's just like figuring out like what is the most important thing I need to be doing. But obviously there are 1,000 challenges.
Yes.
So what else would you say as far as, challenges go? Because I feel like a lot of times, and this is, me talking just a couple weeks into it, but a lot of times it's just like the mindset thing. Because so many things are going to go wrong.
Right. Oh, it is literally falling on your face like 100 times until you get something right. And it's not just like, oh, like that's what I mean for the business in general. It's like every process is just you messing up constantly until you get it right.
Yeah.
And that's really hard. You have to find a team that can like roll with that mindset, because it's just constant failure.
Yeah. And just as far as when you say team, like supportive team, more like people are close to you, or like mentors, advisors, like
that is huge.
Okay.
I meant in terms of like the team that you're hiring like, has to be okay with just like constant failure. But
hey, you come in, but like It's gonna constantly be failing. Yeah.
It's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But when it works, boy, does it feel great.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so worth it. But the highs are really high and the lows are really low.
Yeah.
But the mentor team, like that's even more, like that's critical. Yeah.
It's so funny to say, because me and Joe were actually literally talking about that before you walked in. Is like the highs are so high and the lows are so low. So just trying to balance all of that.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yes. And it doesn't get easier, but you get better at how you handle it.
Right.
And you're also like, when the highs are high, you're like, yeah, I don't really believe it. Like, we'll see next week. Like, if I still feel this way, you kind of like start to sandbag a little.
Yeah, you're like, well, I feel awful.
Oh, Estee Lauder called us.
This is terrible.
Who cares?
Just like some reverse psychological.
Yeah.
That's great.
Or like, oh, this blew up in my face.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
What's some advice you would give Meg? Maybe they're not entrepreneurs yet. Maybe they're like sales leaders.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're, in a construction job, like I can do this myself. Or like, they're just leaders in their respective industries that want to branch out. What's some advice you would give those type of people?
I would start exactly how you were talking about earlier. So Brandefy actually started, I called it my ugly blog. And it was like a $10 a month website, right? Where I just like started talking about comparing products. And it was me doing the comparisons. Like literally I'd be, on a family vacation comparing sunscreens.
That's so funny.
And I started to get like a little bit of organic traffic. Like, 6 people came to the website right now. In hindsight, they're probably all web crawlers.
Right.
But just starting to test and see. And then one of the things that we did later was we created what's called a Wizard of Oz video. And it's what Dropbox did. You don't actually have to have anything that works when you start a business. You just have to be able to like share that with someone else. And so it was a video of like what this app could look like and how people would use it in store.
It's just like a futuristic idea of what it could be.
Yeah, it was like pretending that it already existed.
Got it.
And then you link it to a wait list where you have people sign up and you see how many people sign up. Because that's a really good gauge of like, do people actually give a
crap about
exactly. And so it's just finding like little hacks like that just as a way to start that cost nothing, right?
Yeah.
And kind of mean everything to like how you start to frame your business. Just starting to do something, not being a perfectionist. That's kind of where I go.
Yeah. I'm curious, was there ever a point when you were trying these sunscreens or beauty products or whatever it was where you're like, maybe get a free product or like a subscription or whatever? You're like, I made it. was there like a one moment you can remember that you were like, this is awesome?
I have never, like even now we've raised over $3 million in capital. I'm like, we are nowhere close to having made it. Like, sadly, I've never been. But
was there one moment you're like, oh, this is sweet?
So what kept me going during all the lows, and you have to like figure out what that is for you, is our consumer base. Like our consumer base loves what we're doing. And one time I had this woman like on a particularly tough day. She was like, thank you so much. Like, with the extra money, I'm like affording to buy my son a better birthday present. And it's like, God, like
it matters.
It matters.
Yeah.
And so like being connected to your consumer, I think is what has kept me going. Yeah. And it'll probably be something similar for you on the B2B side. I don't understand B2B businesses at all.
Yeah.
But
neither.
Well, you're about to.
Yeah.
So
no, that's awesome. I think there's some great tips. Is there anything that you do personally that you're like obsessed with, like ritual wise? Like I know like me, I'm obsessed with cold showers. But is there anything like you have like journaling or let's say anything specific?
That is so funny because I've been like debating about trying that.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with not turning on immediately when I wake up.
I love that. Yeah.
So I will like drink my coffee for 20 minutes, not think about anything. It's very meditative. During the summer, I'm like on my back porch with my dog.
That's awesome.
And because I think your brain is in, I think what's called like the theta brainwave state. And so like trying to stay in that state versus
Yeah.
immediately hopping into a cold shower.
Well, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
great advice for me because I could benefit from not just hopping on my phone or hopping on my laptop or just like taking 30 minutes and just reflecting or something.
Yeah. I mean,
need more of
it's
that.
really
I'm just too
mindless.
high-strung. I know.
Yeah. You're just like running into the cold shower.
And I'm just like running into the
lounging.
concrete, like just constantly, you know?
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, that has really become like a huge part of my life and probably my like favorite 20 minutes of the day.
Oh, that's great. What kind of dog?
Chocolate Lab.
Oh.
Mr. Murphy. He's
Is that what you call him,
85.
Mr. Murphy?
Well, I mean, he's got a variety of nicknames at this point.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, do you have any pets?
I do not as of yet, but my girlfriend is begging so we'll see.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's
Very
not.
exciting. That's also a very big deal.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Well, Meg, is there anything that you want the viewers to know about Brandefy? Anything new that's coming up? Anything that you guys are expecting?
We just launched holiday kits and I'm super excited about it. And
Hold
that's why
on.
I was giving you a hard time about your Christmas socks.
I mean, Merry Fitmas.
Merry
Are
Fitmas.
you kidding me?
So it was like just fortuitous that you ran out of socks.
Yeah.
But I have like really strong opinions about not launching holiday stuff in October, but all of our competitors did. And so we wanted to be, on trend and competing. So we launched our holiday kits yesterday, actually.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting. Is this the first time you've ever launched holiday kits?
Yeah. And it's actually a really big investment and they look beautiful.
That's awesome.
And I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I imagine for you guys, Q4, typically during the holidays, it has to be the busiest time, no?
Well, we launched our skincare line just about a year ago. So this is really new
Kind of the
territory
first.
for
Gotcha.
us. Yeah. But typically
So
it
get the
is.
holiday kit.
Yeah. Support the business getting the holiday kit. We'll see how it goes, but I'm really proud of them. And the team did a great job putting them together. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm excited to check it out. So I always wrap up the podcast by asking one question, just to throw you off kilter a little bit. No, it's nothing crazy. But I'm always curious to know who the most influential person in your life has been and why.
Ooh, I have so many wonderful people that have been so influential to me. I have one mentor in particular that I talk to on a weekly basis.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
For about an hour. And I feel like he's had the most impact on kind of the strategy of our business.
Right. I feel like just bouncing ideas back and forth too. It's just because there's not many people who can do that with.
Yeah. And also I feel like you're probably a passionate person just starting your own business.
Yes.
And so having someone like calm, cool, collected, and level-headed, just to kind of say like, hold on a second, is that really the most important thing? Like, should you really be worried about that right now?
Right.
Has been fantastic.
That's awesome.
But I have an amazing founder group. I just feel really, really lucky.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast, and Merry Fitmas.
Yeah, Merry Fitmas. And we'll put everything in the link in the bios and everything like that.
Awesome.
But we'll keep you updated with everything that goes on.
Major congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for listening to this episode of Richmond's $1 Million Startup Podcast presented by BenX. BenX is a benefit consulting firm that brings clarity to the employee benefits world. They have simplified the process for both employers and employees so they can make better healthcare decisions. Learn more about BenX by visiting benxconsulting.com. If you are enjoying listening to this podcast, please consider sharing the show with some people in your life. This will allow us to continue sharing the stories and insights from Richmond's top young entrepreneurs.